So I'm going to consider more examples on trigonometric graphs. So the first one to look at is the graph of y equals to 4 cosine half of x. So let us try to see the sketch. All right, so for y equals to 4 cosine half of x. So if you remember that the general form is y equals to a times cosine into k c minus b plus c. So in this case, we would see that our a is 4, our b in this sense is 0, c is 0, and k in this case is half. So we can see that if we consider this function. Now again, let us see how we can. Okay, before that, let us try to let me write out the a amplitude. The amplitude is 4. What else do we need? The amplitude is 4. B is 0, right? C is 0. As we have it there, then K is half. So with this, we can find the period. We can compute the period. As we know, that period is 2 pi divided by K, which then means we have 2 pi divided by our K in this case is half. And now it is 4 pi, meaning that the period is 4 pi. And like we had in class, all what we need to do now is to look at this 4 pi and divide it into 4 quadrants. That is, each quadrant will be in pi. So let us look at what we have now. So this is a sketch for that function. So since we have 4 pi, if we divide this into 4, then we will have pi. So if this is 0, then everything that is a period, that is, it's going to, we are going to have a cycle from 0 to 4 pi. That is what that means. Yeah, if we are starting from 0. So let us assume this is 4 pi. Then here will be 2 pi, the midpoint, and this will be pi, and this will be 3 pi. So again, if we consider this, if we consider the values we have here, from here we have 1, 0, here we have 0, 1, here we have what's that, negative 1, 0, and here we have 0, negative 1. However, our amplitude in this case is what is our amplitude? 4. The amplitude, and remember that the meaning of amplitude is that the height of the wave, right, which is 4. So if this is 2 and this is 4, this is negative 2, this is negative 4. All right, so all what we need to do now is to multiply the, so we are graphing cosine, so we will deal with the x values of this terminal points. We will deal with the x values, and now the x values for this starting point is 1. So all we need now is to multiply these x values by the amplitude, which is 4. So here it is 4, that is at this point 0, it is 4 here. So we will have a point there. Then moving on, 0 at the second point, it is 0. Then moving on to here we have -1, so which is becoming -4 at this point. And here it is 0, it is 0. And lastly it is 1, so which is 4 because of the amplitude. So we add this. So now what we do have is we can just sketch sorry. So we can just this is not drawn to scale, so it's going to be awkward somehow. So we have something like this. All right, so that is the graph of that function. One thing we need to note here is that our b is 0, that is there is no phase shift. There is no phase shift, so that is why we have this kind of sketch. So let us consider the next example, which is the next example, which is y equals to let's see, y equals to -2 sine x minus pi by 2. So before I solve this, before we have this graph, remember that if you have graph of sine of x which behave this way, which behave this way, so if we have graph of y equals to negative sine of x, so you agree with me that we are going to have something that behaves this way, right? So do not forget this fact. So it is going to affect what we do have here, this negative. Now, if we compare this with the general form, a multiplied by sine k into into t minus b plus c. So we would see here that our a, which is the amplitude because it is the height, so we can take the absolute value, so which is 2, and our b, which is the phase shift, our b, that is the phase shift. The phase shift is so in this sense we have a phase shift which is pi by 2, and we would see that there is a negative here, so that means we are having a phase shift to the right, so we have right shift, so we have a right shift. So if this is plus, then it's going to be a left shift, but because it is minus, then it is a right shift. Okay, so the next thing, C, because we do not have any addition or subtraction here, so that is 0, that is we do not have a vertical shift, maybe to up or to down. And the value of k here, if we compare this, is 1. So from here now we can compute what the period is. Remember, the formula for period is 2 pi divided by k. So which is 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. That is, the period for this function is 2 pi. And what that means is that we are going to have a complete cycle, a full cycle in 2 pi radian. Okay, so let us, seems like we have everything we would need. So what we can do here now is to know that now we need to divide this into four. That is, we need to divide this into 4 segments like we have on unit cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. So if we do that, if we do that, we divide this into 4. So that is pi by 2. That is each quadrant. We have that. So let us graph this, and do not forget we have a phase shift. All right. How does that phase shift affect our graphing? We would see right away. So the period is 2 pi. So let us put 2 pi here. So let me change this. So let's say 2 pi. So this is the midpoint, I would say. Let's call it pi. And this place, we call it pi by 2. And here would be 3 pi by 2. All right. And this is, of course, 0. All right. Now, because we are going to shift our graph to the right by pi by 2, meaning that we are starting from here now, not here. So we shift it to the right by pi by 2. So there is a need for us to create another layer here, another point there. So if we have 2 pi and we are adding pi by 2 to that, so what that gives us is so that is 4 by 4. So that is 5 pi by 2. All right, to have 1 quarter, the second quarter, the third, and first quadrant, the second quadrant, the third quadrant, and the fourth quadrant, because we need to have a phase shift of pi by 2. That said, now there is another thing we need to consider in this graph, this negative. What does that do? Like I showed you here, then it means it flips, right? So it flips. So we are going to have the same thing here. So how does that affect our graph? Let me put values here. Remember, this is 1, 0. This is 0, 1. This is negative 1, 0, and this is 0, negative 1. So how does that affect this graph? We are starting from here and we will flip that. So, well, that means we need to maybe go this way, right? So this is a sine graph. So we'll be considering the y values. So, and our amplitude, do not forget, is 2. So we need to multiply the y values by 2. So if we do that, this is still 0. So here is 0. And if we come down, then we have negative 2. So if this is negative 1, negative 2, 1, 2. So here will be negative 2. And next up is, do not forget, we are considering the y values because it's a sine function. So that is 0. So it stays here. And here it is 2. So that is on this point, it is 2. We get here. And lastly, we come back here, which is 0. So we get here. So that is how the graph looks like. So again, we just join things, and yeah, don't worry about my graph. You understand what I'm trying to do. So that is how the graph of y equals to negative 2 sine x minus pi by 2 looks like. There is a horizontal shift here. Well, you may also decide to go to the other side, that is going this other side. It's still the same, so you can go this side. I only prefer to use this side of the graph. All right, so let us continue. Let me take okay, so this is all right, so we have solved these two examples. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to consider two more examples, but this time now I'm going to be fast. So example 3, so y equals to 2 cosine of x by 3. So I'm still going to be doing the same thing here, but this time I'm going to be pretty fast. So in this case, I will say my a is 2, my b here is 0, my c is 0, my k is 1/3. Then I can find a period. So the period is 2 pi divided by k, which is 2 pi divided by 1/3, and that is 6 pi. So what that means is that I can divide this into four quadrants. I can divide this into 4 quadrants, and what I have is 3 by 2 pi. So 3 by 2 pi, that is 1.5 pi, right? Okay, so let us try to see how the graph looks like. Again, if we have this, we have this. The amplitude is 2. If this is 1 and this is 2, this is -1 and this is -2. Okay, so we do not have a phase shift, so I can do things pretty fast. However, my period is 6 pi. My period is 6 pi. That is when I'm going to complete a cycle, 6 pi. Okay, maybe let us do something more interesting here. Let us graph this for 2 full period. Yeah, so let us do that for 2. So what that means is that if I'm going to complete the first one at 6 pi, so I'm going to complete the second one at 12 pi. So that is what that means. So considering this, the halfway to this guy is going to be 3 pi. It's going to be 3 pi. And well, so let's see, it's going to be 3 pi. Then between this guy and this guy will be let's say 3 pi by 2, right? So or better still, there is a better way to undo this. I can say okay, so I can do this. Okay, so I can say this is pi, this is 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, 6, 7 pi, 8 pi, 9 pi, okay, 9 pi, 10 pi, 11 pi, then 12. All right, yeah, you can do something nicer than that. Okay, so the first one ends here and the second one ends here. So now if I'm dividing this into 4, then I'm moving by 3.5 pi, so that is 1.5. So the first one is going to be here, right? The first, then the second one here, right? The third one will be somewhere here, and the fourth one lands here. So let us see how that works in this case. Well, again, I'll go back to my unit circle. This is 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, and this is 0, negative 1. And my amplitude here is 2. The amplitude is 2, and because it is cosine, then I will work with the x values. So for this, so at this point 0, then I'm going to have it to be 2. Then moving on, for x, because it is cosine, for x it is 0. At this point it is 0. Then for here it is negative 2 multiplied by 2, the height of the wave is, that is negative 2. So don't forget, it's going to be here. Then moving on, I'll get here, that is 0, so which is here. And coming back here, it is 1, so that is 2 because of the amplitude. So I get here. So nicely, I'm going to have a graph that behaves this way. All right, so that behaves this way. Now, because we need twofold period, so this is one cycle. So to go for the other one, so you would agree with me that the next point will be somewhere here. Remember, 1.5. So 1.5. So the next one will be here. The next one will be somewhere here. And the last one will be here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So how does that go again? Well, the same thing from our starting point here. So here it is, remember, it is the x value, so which is 1, and it is 2 in this case, so we are here. And then the next one, 0, so that is here. Then the next one, negative 1, which is 2 now because of the amplitude, so we are here. The next one is 0 because of the even if you multiply, it's still going to be 0. And the last one is 1. So if you multiply by 2, you get here. Just make sure you keep track of how things behave in that sense. So now you can complete a curve doing the no, that's very ugly. So yeah, it's because things are not drawn to scale. So okay, this looks better. Then good. So that is how the graph looks like for that example. And lastly, we have this example 4, which I would say y equals to 2 sine 2x minus pi. Okay, so in this sense, my amplitude A is 2. So I can notice something in this sense. If I ask you what is the value of my k, remember that the general form looks like this: y equals to a sine k into b minus okay, so into k into t minus b plus c. So I do not need to worry about the c, because in this case c is 0. But if you look at this inside, if you look at this and compare it with what we have here, then you will see that there is need for me to do some manipulation here. So I can write this as 2 sine y equals to 2 sine. So I want to ensure that that k is out. So that is 2 into x minus, I need to say this is pi over 2. Do you agree? You should agree with me that if I multiply this back, 2 times pi by 2, I will get my pi. So in this case now, I will be able to know what my b is. So my b is pi by 2. That is a phase shift. Again, because this is negative, so that is a phase shift to the right. And the value of k in this case is 2. Yeah, the value of k is 2. Therefore, we can find the period. The period is 2 pi divided by k. That is how to find the period. So which is 2 pi divided by k is 2. So we have pi. So again, let us complete this for 2 cycles. All right, what else do we need? Looks like we are ready. So, well, again, you know that we need to divide this into 4, right? To know when we have the first cycle. So if the period is pi, meaning that we complete a cycle on pi, so we complete the second one on 2 pi. So focusing on this, the halfway to this guy is half by 2. So here will be pi by 2. So pi by 4. This should be 3 pi by 4, I guess. Yeah. And in this case as well, then we have in this case for pi. So the next one is this. So here we have 5 pi by 4. Somewhere here we have 3 halves pi, and here we have 7 pi by 4. Just adding pi by 4 to this. Pi by 4, add pi by 4, add pi by 4 to get it. But because we do have a phase shift of pi by 2 in that case, then we are going to, have a shift there. So let us start. This is 0, 0, then the amplitude is 2. So this is 1, this is 2, -1, -2. And so what else we have? We have here to be 9 pi by 4, and so on. So let us sketch our graph now, still doing the same thing. 1, 0, 0, 1, -1, 0, and 0, -1. All right. So for the first cycle, we're going to have, do not forget that we have a phase shift of pi by 2. And because this is negative, so we shift to the right. So meaning that we are going to be starting from this point. All right. So if we are starting from this point, then we have to complete the first one. Now we are going to have first quarter here. So let's see. So that is sine graph. So we consider the y values. So this is 0. yeah. Then the next one is 1 because of the amplitude, so that is 2. So at this point, get here. Then the next one is 0, yeah. Then the next one is -1 because of the amplitude, so we are here, and we'll come back here, which is 0. So we are here. So now you know how the graph would behave. So we have something like this. So we have this. All right. Then moving on, we do the same thing. Nothing has changed in this sense. So starting from here again, so we consider the y value, which is 0 here, and which is still the same point, and here it is 1, but because of the amplitude we have 2, so +2 we get here. Then coming here it is 0. Then coming down here, -1 because of the amplitude, so it is -2. Then we need one more point here. Let's say it is here, so just add pi/4. So that is 9 pi/4 plus pi/4. So that is 10 pi/4. So that is 5 pi/2. All right, so at this point, then it is going to be 0, right? So we just do the same thing, continue the graphing, and here and here. So this is how to graph trigonometric function. So I do hope you enjoyed this video just like class. All right, bye for now.